Let me know what you thought about it. Let me know how you felt about the Singapore GP in the comment section. I don't know. Some people thought it was like a boring race altogether, didn't enjoy it whatsoever. Some people are kind of conflicted on it. Some people are wondering, like, after 3 years, it came back. It really wasn't all that. Is it something that we should have? But I'm not here to entirely go over if you liked it or not. I think it had its attributes. I think it probably gets a little bit more credit than most probably think it deserves because it's a late night race. And as sports like spectators, we like events under the lights, right? But let's go into some of these fines and these penalties that probably will go be happening going forward. So the first one we're going to get to is good old Latifi. Good old Latifi does what he does best. And what does Latifi do best? Well, he wrecks. That's why I gave him the nickname Crash Tifi. I gave him the nickname Crash Tifi because that's what he does. And it seems like that's what he's accustomed to doing. And up until now, since Williams said they're not going to renew his contract or his contract will end at the end of this season, I think Williams himself were pretty much tired of Latifi doing some of the things he's done. So let's look and see what Latifi managed to get today, because it surely wasn't a damn podium. He didn't get a podium today. I could tell you that for sure. He damn sure didn't get that. That is exactly what he does. He crashes. So if we look and see what Latifi got here, we'll bring that up. This is the official document to show what happened. So collision with 24 at turn 5. Now we know this is when he pretty much squeezed Joe up against the wall, like didn't leave Joe anywhere to go. He squeezes Joe, so they're going to give him a 5 grid place penalty to be served at the driver's next competition. So given Latifi shows up at the next GP, he will be losing 5 grid spaces on top of whatever else may happen. Like, right, we already know he may not even make it into Q2. So whatever that is, he will suffer 5 more grid places back from that situation. So that is what Latifi gets. Plus, he's going to get 2 penalty points for the remainder of this 12-month period on his license. So he will have 2 penalty points lasting a period of 12 months. And as you see, that situation involves Joe. If you want to look up the article, it's going to be Chapter 5, Appendix Lima in the Sporting Code, or ISC. So that is what we have right there. What do you all think about Latifi? Like, do you think Latifi has earned the right to even be in a Formula One reserve driver position? Because I don't even think Latifi has earned reserve driver status. Like, I just don't. I don't think he's earned reserve driver status. I think Latifi has earned himself a good seat in Formula E, or maybe even try IndyCar. But I definitely don't think that he should be featured anymore as a seat in Formula One. And I hate to say that about somebody's career, because I'm not the type to say, like, what you're doing and you love doing, I want to see you out of it. But Latifi, to me, has not proven to be among the most elite drivers in the world on the Formula One grid. So I want to ask you, I'm going to put a poll in the chat. Like I say, doing the live, don't dance on it, just vote on it. So let me ask you this, and then you can vote on it. And we're going to go to the next one. And don't be cruel, but just be honest. But yeah, I don't think so. So poll in the chat, don't dance on it, just vote on it. So I just want to do a little talking, because these are some of the things that I do post to GP, look at some of the documents, try to check out what's going on. So we're going to go to the next situation. And the next situation is going to involve, I believe we're going to go to Sergio Perez involving the safety car incident. Now, what happens here? Sergio gets a 5-second penalty. Now, of course, whether you agree with it or not, I guess is not the question. The question is, these are the rules. But I would also like to debate. We saw something else that happened that we know was outlawed, that is definitely or should have been looked into. And that's the situation with Max Verstappen overtaking Lando Norris under safety car conditions, not to mention also the speed at which both of them were going, trying to anticipate the green and get the advantage on each other, and it didn't work out. We didn't see anything else on that. I also didn't see anything in the official documents. But right here, looking at Sergio, fact, fall more than 10 car lengths of the safety car. So the stewards heard the driver of car 11, which is Sergio Perez, the team representative, and have reviewed video evidence. Article 55.10 of the FIA Formula Sporting Regulations requires that the leader must keep within 10 car lengths of the safety car once deployed until lights are extinguished. So pretty much they say Perez did not do this. He fell back less than what do you say is not respecting or not respecting the less than 10 car lengths between turns 9 and turns 10. So between turns 9 and 10, Sergio failed to stay within 10 cars length of the safety car, and therefore Sergio Perez is getting a penalty of 5 seconds, which luckily for him, it did not affect his ability to keep the first place podium, to keep first place in today's race. So that's one thing that happened, but 5 seconds here. Now, I'm not, this is what I'm thinking. I don't think that if the stewards are going to wait post the race, right? If you're not going to deliver this penalty in the race, midst the race, before the race finishes, I think that the penalty needs to carry over to the next race. If the race is done and now you issue a 5-second penalty, you need to decide whether it's going to go over to the next race or it's going to be in this race. And I don't like them waiting because then it's like, okay, well, he was more than 5 seconds, so we can give it to him and it doesn't change his status. Or he was less than 5 seconds. And if we give him the 5-second penalty, it's going to change the podium arrangement. So you know what? Let's put it on the next event. I'm not in agreement with that. They need to lay down how this is going to go, period. No ifs, ands, and buts. If we are looking at something that happens in the race, we need to deliver the decision right there and then. I mean, if you're going to look at video evidence, even if you're going to talk to the drivers, and then you're still going to look at video evidence and make your determination off video evidence, what could Sergio have said that may have changed your mind? What was he going to say to change the steward's mind? Because nothing was going to change the fact that you said 10 car lengths of space between him and the safety car evidently was there. Nothing that Sergio was going to say is going to change that spacing. I mean, what's he going to say? Oh, my foot slipped off the damn accelerator. Are you really going to believe that? And then you're going to go look at telemetry. Then do you say, oh, well, his foot. I'm just saying, like, come on now. You could have done better than that. I just think they should. Then the next one that we're going to look into as far as penalties and fines is going to be George Russell, all right? And George gets a fine. He does not, well, everything's a penalty to me. If you're getting fined to me, I'm being penalized money, whether it's on the grid, whether it's time, anything's a penalty. And George Russell gets a penalty, and his penalty is going to be a fine of 100 euros, which pretty much is pocket change to George. But, George probably spends that on lunch, which is not a big deal, but I'm pretty sure George doesn't want to spend his 100 euros on anything aside from what he wants to spend it on. And when you got to spend $100 or $50 on something that you don't want, then it could be a pain in the ass. And I'm pretty sure maybe this is a pain in the ass, but it says pit lane speeding 60.6 kilometers an hour. So George was caught with excessive or exceeding the pit lane speed limit, which is 60 kilometers an hour. So 0.6 over. And they fined George 100 euros. 100 euros. That's what they fined him. So I guess I can't say, well, damn, 0.6 over. If it's over, it's over. If this is what we're doing. But if this is what we're doing, we need to be a little bit more consistent with things. I mean, period. But it seems like, we go here and we come there, depending there. So a lot of people are starting to wonder, like, is the FIA just making up these damn rules as they go? What is going on with that? But I'm not in agreement with it. I still think that if they're going to call these things, it needs to be in the race, because Sergio could have, if he hadn't had such a good lead, been affected by this. And like I said, do the stewards then make the same decision to pull him off of that podium? Now, I've seen them do it like second place, third place, but are they going to do it first place? Sergio gets it, but he's more than 5 seconds, so we can issue it now. Whereas we saw last season, Max faced some of the same things, and it was like, you know what? We'll just kind of issue it so it doesn't. I just think there's room in there for improvement for them to keep or or uphold a bit more integrity when it comes to the penalties, when it comes to investigating these penalties, when it comes to even assessing or wondering if some of these things should be penalties. But hey, rules are rules. This is what happens. So Russell gets a €100 fine. Sergio Perez gets 5 seconds added onto his time, which doesn't change his placement on the grid whatsoever. And Latifi gets a 5 grid place penalty, which, I mean, really doesn't hurt Latifi either because he's not doing that damn great. So I don't, Singapore was okay to me. I think the wet situation made it like somewhat, a little bit more interesting in spikes and in places. I don't, it's been 3 years since the circuit has been on the damn map. And I think maybe because of the last time I really, saw Singapore, you kind of forget maybe its driving is almost similar to Monaco because we didn't have a lot of overtaking. And many of the drivers made comments to this that Singapore just did not offer the overtaking ability as some of the other circuits. It was almost like a more dressed up block or two at night Monaco. And Monaco is still one of these tracks that plenty of people are wondering, like, why is it still on the schedule? And I can tell you because of money. What's up, T48 Renzo? I see we got Wolfpack family in the house. What's going on, man? So if you missed earlier's live, man, we talked about plenty. I don't know if you made it into the Zoom call. We got a little bit of bad news today. Bittersweet news, not necessarily bad news, bittersweet news. But yeah, I think the rain definitely did a little bit to it. I don't know if it would have been more interesting without the rain. I honestly think the wet condition made the track or the race a bit more interesting where it could be. If we had a dry track, I don't think there would have been a lot of, the in and outs. I don't think there would have been the in the walls, the runoffs, those little moments that kind of changed up the little bit of the race because there wasn't a lot of overtaking. So when we saw an incident of somebody come off the wall or somebody run long, run deep and couldn't hold the line, Lewis Hamilton tries to make a move on Vettel, hits a puddle, has to go into the runoff. Aside from things happening like that, we didn't see a lot of overtaking. We didn't see a lot of action. And when they did finally enable DRS, I mean, shit, a Red Bull straight line speed. I mean, we saw Ferrari once again struggle, but not even that. We even saw times where it was hard to pass a W13, and we know for a fact that that's not the fastest car in straight line speed due to the fact they haven't probably even turned the motor up because they're still trying to get a handle on this new design. And we got to wonder if we're even going to see this design later on. Alpine shows that the Renault motors are just like they've always been, but thanks to one of the subscribers mentioning the fact that Alpine and Renault are indeed tied together outside Formula One, so Alpine might be screwed as to what kind of power unit they're going to be running, seeing how they are connected from what a subscriber said outside of Formula One, which I will look into and see what the connections are on that. Ferrari, at least, were reliable. They didn't have any DNFs across the grid with them are their client cars, so that would be Alfa Romeo and Haas. We didn't see any of those cars. I don't think we saw any of those go out due to mechanical failure. Just the Renaults today, and then everybody else was out due to incidents. So we had Yuki again with his situation, post one safety car, bring another safety car. We had Albon, believe he ends up retiring because of that situation. Then Latifi does what he does, and he ends up out of there. Zhou ends up out of there as a result to Latifi. Zhou is having a rough season. Like, this season is rough for Zhou. Zhou's had one of probably one of the worst incidents without losing life. Zhou's incident was pretty bad, and that was at Silverstone, I believe. That was a pretty bad incident, and they even saw that material-wise or structurally-wise, the rollover hoop failed. So that's something that the FIA is going to have to revisit and hopefully maybe redesign with that in mind to be a little bit more safety. But the rollover hoop failed. Told several people this when it happened, and they were like, oh, no, the Halo didn't do anything. Yes, the Halo did plenty, but Zhou is having a rough season. I think he's a decent driver outside of what's been happening to him. I would like to see him next season, depending on what happens with Audi and the whole, Sauber thing, depending on what happens there. But regardless, I think Zhou has signed his extension 2023, I believe. So he will be there. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, definitely would have lost his life if it were not for the Halo. The Halo was one of those devices when it entered into Formula One or was announced that it was coming to Formula One. Many drivers and engineers and people did not like it. There was some that were kind of mixed in about it, but I think it has proven itself in whatever gold. It's proven itself in gold to what it has done for drivers. Look at Grosjean and look at Joe. Those two examples right there should be enough for you to go back and look into and see that the Halo is definitely a device that should stay, that is needed, and definitely should not go anywhere. It saved Grosjean's life, or else I think he would have been decapitated going through that barrier. It saved Joe's life because the rollover hoop failed, and had it not been for the Halo, Joe's head would have been a rollover hoop, and we probably would not be seeing him today. And both of those situations, given without the Halo, could have been very unfortunate for not only them, their families, their friends, Formula One, and us as spectators to see something like that happen. And I just, we don't want to relive anything like that. I think people, when they saw Senna for the last time, I think that sticks with everybody who probably watched that while it was happening. And I don't want to see a situation like that for any driver on the grid. Like, I hate to even say, well, maybe if they have an incident, this race might be. No, I don't want to see an incident because you never know what the capabilities or the extent that that incident could lead up to. So definitely, I appreciate everybody joining in the chat. I just figured I was up going through things. I said I'm gonna go and get on here live, talk to the people, see what y'all got going on, see if y'all like the damn race. And a 94% of y'all said no, Latifi should not be in Formula One. And I think I definitely agree with that. And I also get tired of the commentators talking about Albon not making it back and Nick DeVries threatening for us, all this crap. Albon is there to stay. Latifi needs to go. Who they're gonna bring in next, I don't know. I'm gonna be very interested to see what Gasly does with Alpine. I know that. I know that. I know I'll be interested to see that and who goes into the AlphaTauri car. I'm going to be interested to see that. Jay Starship, what's going on? Blue Diva, I got Wolfpack fam in here. Jay Starship, Blue Diva. I see y'all with the Patronus and the gold icons. What's happening with y'all? So yeah, I think the race was, it was bitter. It was kind of like, hey, it's been a real mixed day. Like, it's really been a mixed day altogether. It's been a mixed day altogether. Like, from the race to everything else after the race to things happening in the Wolfpack fam. It's definitely been a damn mixed day. That race didn't help. Then we thought it was going to be rained out. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens at the next GP. I think pretty much Max probably will end the championship about early. Given, I don't know, I guess anything could happen, but I definitely, see him probably getting it earlier. They thought he would get it in Singapore, but the two drivers that they were looking to count out in order for Max to be in didn't happen. And anything can happen. I think it was what's up, Galacticus? What going on? I did your new members post, so I posted. We got a lot of Wolfpack fam popping up in here. Big shout out to y'all. I think I it's funny to see Perez on podium and then winning the race. I'm gonna be interested. I didn't know or didn't see anything on the update list that said Perez's floor had been updated. Now I did see they had a subtle reprofiling of the floor fence, is all that Red Bull is reporting. Now I told you all this before, even when they had the two different floors, that Red Bull I didn't think they were reporting accurately on the upgrade charts what was completely going on. But I would be interested to know if Perez has now received the same floor as Max. I'm also interested to know what you all think about the notion that Red Bull is taking their car in a direction that's best for Red Bull, and Perez just is not acclimating to it, versus I think Red Bull is taking the car in the best direction for Max and becoming a one-car team, and it's going away from Perez because it doesn't suit his driving style. I don't really see a need to set both cars up identically the same. If I'm a driver, I want my RB18 or my W13 or my AT. I want my car set up for my driving style, point blank, period. Point blank, period. So I don't believe this. I also don't think it's a coincidence that after Max's dad gets on social media in mints while Perez has another good day and starts blasting Red Bull about conspiracy theories about what they're doing to the car. So just think about that. I mean, we had the same situation at Haas, right? We had the same situation take place with Mazepin and Schumacher, where Mazepin's dad pretty much was threatening to take away the money from Haas due to the fact that he felt they were giving his son the heavier car, to the point where they literally played a shell game switched the drivers to show that that wasn't the case, and Mazepin just wasn't it. The only thing I don't agree with that entire situation is the fact that when they decided to get rid of Mazepin, they used it in the shadow of everything that was going on with Russia and Ukraine. I think that Haas should have just had the balls to just come out and say, yo, take your money, take your son. He's not a good driver. We got to move on. I think they should have just did that. And that would have been, I would have gave them a lot more respect for just doing that. I just didn't agree with how they got rid of Mazepin because I didn't agree with several other Russian athletes that may have not even had the same notion as their government, because many of us do not agree with our governments when they do certain things, but we get lumped in from outsiders because we're American. When America does ridiculous ass things, sometimes people from outside America are going to think you all are the same. Just like some people are going to think people from Russia are all the same. I'm telling you, from in the military and knowing different people that have served in the military and are different locals, not all of them agree with their countrymen or their government ways. I can promise you that. It's not like that. So I just didn't agree with them, banning Russian athletes, especially if they couldn't prove that either they had ties or they really had strong beliefs and agree with what Russia was doing. I mean, we even had that young Carter who wasn't even operating under his license, doing the Nazi sign. Like, when you see things like that, yeah, well, that's an indication you got to go. Like, you're doing things that doesn't put a positive light on yourself or the sport. So we're going to see. Oh, man, we're going to see about all that other stuff. You got to check out Finale Lap if you want to see about something else. Of course, listen, a lot of people are going to say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it was not a good race for either, Max or Lewis. Definitely. I mean, any other time you're gonna see Max take the RB18 from 10th all the way up to 1. I already told you all, Max is not the best driver in wet conditions, and Max is also a front runner. But that RB18 is a rocket ship. And we also got to see Lewis Hamilton, definitely, you know what I'm saying? He made his mistake. He went through that puddle, came off the driving line. But think about this. All the way from qualifying to the race, who the hell didn't come off track? Max came off track in the runoff. Hamilton came off track in the runoff. Russell came off track in the runoff. What was it? Carlos or Charles came off track. I mean, it was so many drivers came off track. I mean, Yuki's out. Damn, it was so many drivers that did not handle this circuit well under wet conditions that it ain't even funny, right? It was across the grid. Many people had these situations and issues. I mean, it's just one of those things, but definitely just going on. We're gonna see what's happening Wednesday. Wednesday, you all know what happens. They're gonna be handing out their certificates, so a lot of things will come out then. But yeah. So it was an interesting race, although it kind of seemed like lame duck. It was interesting, and I think I definitely big shout out to Perez. Checo, it's good to see you on the podium. Good to see you get up there. Them Ferrari boys finally finished an entire race without a DNF, without mechanical failure, and Charles almost really tried to give it away again. Charles has to learn to stop trying to overdrive, right? He gets this pressure. I think he gets antsy. I think he might have anxiety or something. He gets in there and just really pushes, and then he causes himself a mistake that takes him out of the race. And he almost did it today. But he didn't Charles it up. But I mean, aside, if he would get away, thank you, appreciate you, Jay Jones, man. I'm doing my best, man, doing my best. Aside from him doing that, if he can get away from just like my AM1 or my Master Chief used to say, don't mind F it. Like, right? Don't overthink the protocol. Don't overthink what we got to do. Just, what you've been through the training. You know what you got to do. You know what you need to react. Just go in there and free flow. And that's what Charles has got to do. Charles has got to start letting it come to him. He's got to stop pushing under situations where he really doesn't need to overly push. I think Charles is a good driver. I think he makes small mistakes, but every driver makes mistakes. I think Ferrari hasn't been the best that they could have been for their drivers, although initially their drivers definitely have made their mistakes. I think Ferrari as a team has made more mistakes that have hindered them in the championship contentions. No doubt. I got to put more of that on Ferrari. But Charles definitely is a talented driver. He's a good driver. I would like to see what would have happened, what will happen, what would happen, did happen. And what did happen is Ferrari failed to execute good strategies. Ferrari power units failed to be reliable, and Charles and Carlos at times failed to make the right decisions. So that is what happened, and that is why Ferrari is where they are. And that's no doubt about that. Mercedes is where they are because their design definitely gave them a tall task of trying. They were innovative. It's a different design, and I'm not saying it's not going to work. It definitely offers a shit ton of downforce. I just don't think they were prepared for the drastic change due to the wind tunnel to actual. Like, theory is great, but actual factual things that happen in real life are not always according to theory. And I think it was a bit more than they thought they were going to have to handle, but they have gotten a handle on it. McLaren, now we could talk about them, and we will talk about them. I was definitely glad to see McLaren end up where they ended up today. They've been one of the teams that have brought some of the bigger upgrade packages through the season. I mean, one time they brought like what, 7 or 12 and then 8. Like, they've come with some pretty decent size update packages. Let's call them that. I don't think they've had an upgrade package until recently, but they come with a considerable amount of updates. I think maybe I'm gonna need to see it again to see if their updates actually are upgrades. But big shout out to them for that. And outside of that, I mean, hell, Alfa Romeo didn't have the best day. Alpine definitely didn't have the best day. Aston Martin, same old same with them. They're another disappointment for this season. I'm gonna be interested to see what they end up doing next season. So, it is what it is, but we're gonna be on to the next. And hopefully, let me see what we got here. I know a lot of people have been still trying to anticipate where Lewis Hamilton will get his first win, if he will even get a win this season. It's quite possible that he doesn't get a win this season, right? But I mean, look at how many seasons he's went with wins. So it's like people are going to try to make it worse than it is. You're talking about a 7-time world championship. You're talking about a multiple world record holder. You're talking about somebody who it's not an argument. It's probably the best driver in Formula One history that literally is the GOAT, and he's still doing now, just like Tom Brady's still playing football. But you look at Tom Brady's season, this season is not the greatest, right? He's lost I want to say he lost Giselle, his wife, but definitely his home life is fractured because he thought to return would be better than it was, and it's not right now. And is that an indictment on Tom Brady's career? No, he's still the GOAT. He still has accomplished everything he had accomplished. What, you think 2 rough seasons should make people look at Tom Brady like he's any less? Hell no. So it's quite funny to me how people want to try to take a season, because we're not going to count last season. Like, that shit was a scandal. A season should allow you to think that you can talk down on somebody who has accomplished as much as Lewis Hamilton has. Come on, be for real. If you're willing to try to crown somebody that hasn't really accomplished damn near shit and got 1 championship, how do you dethrone or try to talk shade on somebody who has 7 of those things? It would take 3 drivers to total up what 1 driver has. Like, come on, be serious with yourself. Stop playing around with yourself. You probably play with yourself too much. That's what's going on. So round 18 coming up, we got Japan. I know some of you said that it might happen in Japan. Then we got a break from the 12th to the 14th, and then we go into Texas. Yes, the great state of Texas, 21st through the 23rd for COTA. One of my favorite tracks. Got it right there on the wall. Probably is my favorite track. Plus, it's from Texas. So, yes, COTA. I got Silverstone. Of course, I got the Nürburgring. Monaco, because it's historic. I don't mind Monaco being up there, right? But, yeah, that's what it is. So, we'll see what happens. I'm going to be back live next week for qualifying. I'm probably going to be live in the middle of the week because things are probably going to pop off as we get ready to go into Japan. But definitely live on Saturdays for qualifying, and then live again on Sundays for the race. So big shout out to you all for hopping on the live. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all stay tuned. Like I said, big shout out to everybody for breast cancer. I will be wearing some variation of pink and purple throughout the month. That's it, because I'm really serious about breast cancer, cancer of any type, battle against domestic violence, all of that stuff. I'm with all of that. So if any of you, like I said earlier, have a family, a friend, or even you yourself battling those situations, big shout out to you. More power and positive energy to you. If you've lost somebody due to cancer or domestic violence like myself, condolences. Keep your head up and more power to you. Always try to talk to somebody, because you never know when somebody's in peril. And sometimes it's hard for those people to talk because they don't want to come off as seeming weak or putting their problems off on some people. Make your ear and your shoulder available for a loved one, okay? So we can eliminate and keep some of these things from happening that are happening in the world while these people are going through these very challenging situations, all right? So big shout out. Y'all have a good night. I'm going to see y'all on the next go round. Peace.